Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a heartbreaking and emotional story filled with loss, sorrow, and corruption at every turn. But behind that lies redemption, beautiful sprawling world with vast sights, and of course, Monkey. In Wisps, we have to travel throughout the world to try and bring order back to the land of Niwen that has been torn apart by corruption and anger. And as this is a side-scroller, we must do this by traveling in the 4 typical directions: up, down, left, and right. Right? Well, what if I told you that Wisps can be beaten without ever pressing left to go left? Today, we are diving into the Ori and the Will of the Wisps No Left Press Challenge. We won't get too much into the details of the run yet, but just to clarify the no left press, any input press that would move us to the left, such as the A or left arrow key on the keyboard, or pressing left on a controller or joystick, would be counted as a left press. I quickly want to mention as well that for this run, we will be playing in easy mode, which means shop cost reductions and boss health reductions. I will be going over many of the obstacles and the route that I had taken for this run. I won't be covering everything in this video, but I will be going into detail about some portions of the run that I felt would be important to go over. If you don't much care for narration and want to see the actual run to see everything in action, the full run will be posted and linked in the description. With that out of the way, let's get into the run. As always, we start off in Inkwater Marsh, alone and stranded, but now Ori has somehow forgotten how to walk left. Maybe falling from the sky has something to do with it. No matter, we start with moving right anyways, so how hard could it be? We can go and get this spirit light to start here. Well, thankfully for us, Ori is quite the gymnast, as if we crouch and jump, Ori will do a backflip that will grant us backwards momentum. With this, we can break our back even more, and head down to collect the torch. Now, we have found ourselves in quite the sticky situation, as now we cannot head down to collect the keystones to go and face Hell, as we are unable to scale this wall here in our current state, which means we will have to do the skip for early Inkwater. This by no means is an easy task though, as we have to use some weird momentum to fling ourselves to the left. Even after getting up, we cannot backflip after getting up to this platform, as we will just drop through when holding down. Though there may be a way from what I've tested, but the timing is super precise and very inconsistent. In order to cross this gap, we will have to use another important trick that will allow us to progress: turnarounds. Whenever Ori slides down a wall, they will turn to face the wall to do the slide down animation. We can use this to our advantage to face left, use this wall to fling ourselves with momentum to the right while still facing left, backflip to keep which way we are facing, then once up, use the torch to attack, which will give us forward momentum. Getting up to Greater Inkwater Marsh is not an issue, but now we need a way to progress further. To skip a lot of explanation of routing, we basically need a way to get vertical height for a lot of sections. Using Kwolok's Hollow as a quick example, the puzzle room requires a lot of left travel, and since we do not have said possibility, we cannot complete it normally. There is also a lot of verticality to this area as well, which, with the current kit of just a torch, or bow if we go to collect that, as we would have to lose the torch to do so, it would be impossible. In comes the grind section of the challenge. In order to progress, we need 2 key items: hammer and sentry. These two will allow us to do a simple trick called sentry jump. We have to farm this area for spirit light required to get the 2 items, which will cost 200 for discount first buy and 400 for the second, which means we will have to collect 600 in total. The only things we can farm in this area for spirit light are 2 hanging bulbs, which give 3 on break, and the Frankies, which give 6 on death. As Frankies only seem to respawn every 2 to 3 minutes, and the lower bulb being only viable to collect when killing the Frankies, that leaves us with the top left one to collect mainly. This process took me just over an hour to farm the required spirit light, but can definitely be improved as in my run I forgot about another trick that would have made my travel to this bulb faster. Conversation turnaround. When talking to an NPC from a specific side, they will turn Ori to face them. After we secure the 2 weapons, we can make our way up to collect bow by losing torch here. Then we can do some movement to go backwards towards the bow tree. I want to take this time to clarify one point of contention now on the rules. As we cannot press left, this means that selecting weapons and abilities in the ability wheel that are on the left side cannot be done with left presses. This later becomes more apparent with abilities such as bash and launch. And since I primarily play on controller, that means no selecting sentry or bashing or launching left, right? Well, let me introduce you to my new nightmare. Switching to a new control scheme. This is where my emphasis on press comes into the scene. When using a mouse, there is no press involved, meaning we can move the mouse to aim and select what we need without ever really pressing left. This means we can effectively aim our bash and launch as well, using this ruling. And let me tell you, this was not easy by any means. As I was too lazy to learn how to play with a new control scheme, which probably would have been easier and wouldn't have had as many weird controller issues with artifact drift, I instead decided to make it harder and swap between the two whenever I needed to use any of those. And let me tell you that there is a lot of them. With this, we can now use the bow as another method of turnaround by using the mouse to aim it. I decided to head back down to go get the keystones and then face Howl. This is made easier with our new mobility options, and since Howl Escape is a hold right section, we can do that easily. The fight thankfully faces us left, so all we have to do is torch hover attack to quickly fend them off, at least on easy mode that is. This will unlock the sword, double jump, and regenerate, which all will be crucial to the rest of this run. With all of this, and the extra cells collected that are just lying around, we can make our way into Kwolok's Hollow. Kwolok's puzzle room can be boiled down into one simple word: luck. In order to complete this room, we have to get the boulder up top to the left onto a switch, which, since we cannot press left, we cannot manually push it left. That means we have to do a skip to get up top, and push it down in a way so that it bounces off the lower platform onto the slanted statue tongue, and have enough momentum to land on the switch, but not too much to where it somehow flings itself into the pit past it. I want to say I've done this trick many times, as this is my normal strategy for this room, and never have I had this luck with the rock. The next part is equally as annoying, as we have to make our way up left to the lever. Thankfully, in this run, I managed to get a lucky turnaround after a few tries in the water that can happen, which allowed me to cling to the wall here. Into a bow turnaround, into midair sentry jumps. We can now easily get dash and progress onwards. We skip the hornbug fight just because there's no point in fighting it, and get our next mobility ability, bash. With this, we can now move to the left utilizing projectiles and enemies. There isn't much to say about the Wellspring, as we can make our way to grapple with not too much hassle, and even use grapple to change our direction in rare scenarios as well. Realistically, going through Wellspring past Grapple is not required, as we will be skipping any collection of Wisps. All Wisps have either a little or all left travel, which make them not doable. I did it in my run for some testing to see if there was any possibility of water travel, which would change my routing if not. To get into Silent Woods, we need to do an out of bounds clip in the secret Spirit Light area just above the entrance to the water section, before Silent Woods. Thankfully this clip only requires us going right, so we QTM and begin the dangerous trek. Without the option to adjust ourselves if we go too far right, we have to be very careful of positioning when traversing over the sludge. We have to collect the 2 keystones to progress here, and although the top one isn't difficult to get, the lower one requires some precise movement. Okay. Next on our plate is one of the harder portions of the run, as now we have to skip Ku. This isn't too difficult on its own, as we can just do some backup save shenanigans to spawn us past the cutscene trigger, but not riding Ku. But this means we have to go through the whole section without glide or flap, which, when paired with no left presses, makes this area a roulette of movement. Here is a few instances of insanity for your viewing pleasure. Okay. Now comes the feeding ground skip, which isn't too hard to do itself. The difficulty comes from heading upwards to get out. It is a little bit of a challenge, but with a sentry jump and a grapple, we can easily make it out. Welcome to the second last stop of the day, Windswept Wastes. Here, we will see if we can make our way to Get Burrow. There is this grapple section that, even though we can hold up to latch onto them, a couple of them put us in an awkward position to continue moving. Eventually, after some brute force, we can make it to the sand walls section and use some wall jump momentum to get up, and collect Burrow. A little trick I learned in some extra travel through the wastes is that when burrowing, you can tactically bonk on walls to turn around and use the vertical movement options to keep going left while angling where is needed to go. Before we head into Willow's End, we have 2 Ancestral lights that are available to be collected and shouldn't pose too much of an issue to collect. The first one we prepared for the first time we entered Silent Woods by talking to the key just left of the Westwoods TP. With a bit of back and forth, we can plant the seed and get our first damage upgrade. We can next head to the Midnight Burrows entrance, which with triple jump isn't too hard of a task. And using Bash, we can easily go between the 3 lanterns and open up our second upgrade. After some elevator cheese, launch may be obtained and we head into the hardest part of the run. I'll gloss over the easy corrupted hearts to collect and go over the ones that are more difficult than they have any right to be. The top right heart is normally my worst one, but in this challenge, it brings it to a whole new extreme. It starts with us having to travel left and up, just to be able to go right. Timing is crucial as any incorrect timing leads to basically no recovery. Burrow path heart can be difficult if the burrows and bashes are not aimed well, but after the vertical portion, it isn't too terrible. Cheese wheel path, the path that has the giant rotating circle with the straight path through it, can be very difficult to aim and time due to the speed of the turning and the angle prediction timing. The rooms leading up to the cheese wheel room are also not very easy, but not as hard as the cheese wheel itself. And just because, Willowstone easy. It just melts. With that, we are now face to face with our final objective, Shriek. The final showdown with Shriek is not a fight to be taken lightly, but since most of her attacks are fairly scripted and are pretty well telegraphed, most of the first phase should be easy. Try to stick to the left side of the arena to ensure you can be facing the right way to hit Shriek. Knowing distances that you need to be away from hitboxes and attack patterns are a huge help in making the fight easier. There is always bash and launch opportunities if ever on the wrong side as well. The escape sequence is quite easy, just make sure not to somehow overshoot a platform and you should be golden. Second phase is quite similar to the first, just stick to the left as much as you can, and play a little more safely as a few attacks can be a bit annoying to avoid if you miss position. Moving into the final phase, just use bash and launch interchangeably to make sure you are avoiding the 2 swoop attacks. As Shriek is on the right side of the screen, try to stick as right as possible, while staying within projectile distance if you ever need to regain height. The final phase should only take 1 or 2 cycles depending on how the fight goes, and with that, we can officially say that Ori and the Will of the Wisps can be beaten without ever pressing left. This challenge was probably one of my favorites by far, due to not having so much brain-staking routing to plan out, and was mostly done on the fly. If you like challenges or just want to try something new in Ori, I highly recommend this challenge. It definitely can be improved upon, and although I allowed aiming with the mouse as it was not considered a press, it would be cool to eventually try or see this potentially removed to be a more accessible challenge for the non-PC folks. The full run will be posted soon alongside this video, and I do have some other challenge videos on the way soon as well. Anyways, that will do it for this video. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay. What? Coup? Coup? Oh, that's a new one.